Hannah. I am an artist at studionAme in Leicester. I really love making sculptures, among other things. So today I'm going to show you how to make a sculpture hat, or a hat sculpture. So some of you will be thinking it's just a hat, but I really like the idea of you being able to make your body into a piece of artwork, or that you can wear a piece of artwork. So I like to think of it as a sculpture hat. So we're going to learn how to make a sculpture hat, and we're also going to learn how to make a 3D picture. So we're going to learn the same techniques for both. So your 3D picture or your sculpture picture. And I'll also show you how to do it but using recycled materials. So you might not have access to lots of art materials, so I'm going to show you how you can do it with things around your house. The materials that you're going to need for your sculpture hat are some coloured A4 card, lots of different colours. I'm also going to be using A3 coloured card. You don't need to use A3 card, it's just an extra. You will also need a pair of scissors, a stapler and a glue stick. If you don't have a stapler, I will also explain how you can use glue. So you might not have access to coloured card, and that's okay. I'm going to also show you how you can make your sculpture hat using recycled materials. So over here I've also got some cardboard from cereal packets. I've got an old envelope from the post, and I've also got, perfect this time of year, some cardboard left over from an Easter egg box. So if you don't have access to coloured card, it doesn't matter, because I'll show you how you can also make your sculpture hat using recycled materials. You will also need a pencil. So to begin making our sculpture hat, I started by cutting my coloured card into lots of thin strips. So you're going to want short strips, long strips, fat strips, thin strips, lots of different sized strips. And you can do this as you go along, but I like to have them all prepped ready so that I can just keep grabbing them and start making. Kind of speeds the process up a bit. So over here I've got all my coloured strips, and in a minute we're going to transform these strips into 3D sculpture. But to begin with, we need to make our headband for our hat. So I've got two thicker pieces of card over here. There's no exact size, just a little bit fatter than the ones that you're going to make your sculpture out of. I'm using my A3 card because I've got a grown-up head, but it'll work just as well with your A4 card. You might just need several pieces depending on how big your head is. So the first thing I'm going to do is join my two pieces of card together. I'm going to use my stapler. So you can use a Pritt stick for this, but you will need to hold onto your two pieces of paper and make sure that they've stuck firmly before we move on to the next section. Using a stapler is obviously just so much quicker because you don't need to wait for your glue to dry. So now I need to measure my head. So I'm going to put this against my head. I'm going to wrap it around like this. Get it nice and tight. You want to make sure it's a bit too tight because you don't want it to fall off your head. And then I'm going to lift it off my head. Try not to catch my hair. And now I'm going to staple my card together here. So you can either cut the excess off now, or I'm just going to staple it down because then it's much neater. Okay, so I'm going to put my headband to one side because we don't need that for a few minutes. Now this is the exciting bit. We're going to turn our strips of paper into sculptures. So I'm going to show you a few techniques, but what I want you to bear in mind is that you can invent your own techniques. So you might come up with some far better ideas. So I'm going to show you some ideas, and then you can always come up with your own. So to start with, I'm going to choose this nice green strip, and I'm going to show you a really easy way of folding your paper. So you start at any end and you fold a little square like that way, and then you turn it round and you fold it the other way. And then you turn it back this way and you fold it like that. And then you just keep doing that all the way until you get to the bottom. It doesn't need to be really neat and tidy. Fold it, turn it around, fold it again. You can do it like this as well on the table. I'm just holding it up so you can see it. And when you get to the other end, you'll have a little springy thing like that. So that's one of the easiest folds that you can do, and it stands up like that. So that's the first one. The next one I'm going to choose a little piece this time, a short piece. I'm going to show you how to make something that curls round. So this is where you'll need your pencil. So I'm going to hold the card, one end of the card, against the top of any part of the pencil, and then I'm going to just wrap my card around the pencil. I'm pulling it as I go along, so it's quite tight, like this. All the way around, and then you slip the pencil out, and you've got a nice little curly whirly piece of card like that. So that's a second way of making the card 3D. And then you might want to do a similar one to this, but instead of going straight, you could go at a little angle. So you fold the paper that way, then that way, then, it's because I'm holding it up, it's making my brain confused. Then that way. So this is really where you can start inventing your own folds, because I'm just making this up as I go along now. Let's see what happens. Oh, so it's still kind of springy, but the folds are a little bit more mixed up. Okay, so I'm going to get my pencil again, and this is very, very similar to this curly one, but I'm just going to change the way that I wrap the card around the pencil. So before, we just wrapped around, but now we're going to wrap along the pencil. So I'm going to hold the card between my thumb and the pencil, and then I'm going to wrap and go along the pencil like this, like I'm wrapping the pencil up. Oops, don't worry if it slips off. And then when I pull my, oh, I've done it so tight that the pencil's stuck. When I pull the pencil out, we get a different kind of, you see how different that is? And that's just changing the way that you wrap the card around the pencil. So you could also do bigger folds. So rather than doing lots and lots of little folds, which makes it springy, you could just do some big zigzag folds like this. That looks a bit like an M or a W. So at this point, I'm going to start attaching my little sculptures to my headband. So there's two different ways that we could do this. You could make all of these different folds all at once and then attach them to your headband. Or you could do what I'm going to do, which is, I've done a few, I'm going to start attaching them to my headband and then I'm going to make some more. Because as I go along, I change my mind and I make things up. So I like to do it as I go along rather than doing it all at once. So choose anywhere on your headband that you like, and we're going to attach our sculptures. So I always put the card on the inside of the headband, not the outside. That's so that it's hidden, so that the headband on the outside stays nice looking, but you can have it on the outside if you want. So I'm going to put it behind there, and then I'm going to slip my stapler in like that, and go, there you go, ta-da! So you can, at this point, if you don't have a stapler, you can use a glue stick or PVA glue, but it's going to take a lot longer because you need to leave it to dry. So if I put glue onto there, I would then need to sit here and let it dry, because if I let go, it would probably fall off. if you are using glue, I have a little tip. You can use a peg. So if you've put a little bit of glue on here, you can then add your peg and then that will hold it on while it's drying. So just make sure if you're using a Pritt stick to leave it a couple of minutes to dry before moving on. So then I'm going to take this one and then I'm just going to randomly choose somewhere else to put my next sculpture. And as you can see, that one's standing up loads. I'm going to put my curly whirly one here. So you might have a design in your head already, but if you're like me, I like to make it up as I go along. I don't have a design before I start. And you can play around with the way that you position your pieces of card. So it could be up like that, or it could be along like that. Just have a little mess around and see what you think looks best. Okay, so at this point I've got some nice curly whirly springy bits all around the outside, but I would quite like to have some bits in the middle. So to do this we need another strip of card, and you need to make sure it's a longer piece rather than a shorter piece, because what we're going to do is we're going to create a little bridge that goes across the top of this headband. So I'll start at one point of the headband, it doesn't matter where, and I will attach this using my stapler. Don't know if you can see that. And then I'm going to stretch it over to the opposite side and attach it just there. Oops. So now there is a cross piece going across the headband, which means I can now start adding all of these little bits of sculpture to the middle bit as well. We can start having lots more going on in the middle as well as the outside. So now I'm just going to start adding lots of different folded pieces and start building up my sculpture. You might have something like I'm having at the moment where I don't like that this bit's hanging down, so I'm going to attach it in two places. So I've already attached it there and now I'm going to attach it there as well. But you might like it hanging down, but I wanted to attach it in two places.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean about inventing new ways of folding the card. So I folded a little diagonal like that, then I folded a diagonal there, and then I was like, oh, I don't know what to do with that now. And then, oh, I could twist it. So you can really have a lot of fun with the way that you fold the card. Just experiment. Okay, so obviously you could keep going and just keep adding and adding and adding things. You might decide that actually less is more. So this one's quite busy and quite crazy, which I love, but you might decide, oh, I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to have just curls or just bouncy folded bits. So you could make one and then make another one after you've made the first one, because you've learnt some new things. So I'm going to stop there because you can see how it looks, and now you can go and make your own version. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make the same thing but using recycled materials. You might not have access to coloured card, but I'm going to show you how you can make something just as funky and cool but using things that you find around your house. So I've already made my headband. This is using a cereal box. The cereal boxes are the best because they're the right kind of thickness. They're very similar to this coloured card in thickness. So I've made my headband, and we're going to use exactly the same folding techniques that you've just learnt with the coloured card. But I wanted to just talk to you about how you might decorate these. So because they're not bright and colourful like the coloured card, some of them have pattern on, so that one's got some colour on, but you don't really want the branding on it. What I've discovered is that the inside of these envelopes that you get through the post has some really nice patterns on, so I'm going to leave that exactly like that. But on some of these strips, I'm going to decorate them. So I've got some coloured pens down here, and I'm going to just really quickly do some patterns on there. So obviously you can take your time over this and really do your own thing. I've done this really quickly just to show you. So you might want to leave it white. You might like the minimal look. That's definitely a cool thing. But you could also at this point colour it in. Before you start doing your folding, you'll need to decorate all your pieces of card because it's a little bit difficult when they start being all folded to attach them. So I'm going to do that now. So something I discovered while making my recycled version was that the cardboard from the cereal packets is much stronger, much stiffer than this coloured card. And actually I really like it because it's holding its shape much more than the coloured card, and you can really go quite big and sculptural. But then I also discovered that you can't get curly whirly bits as easily with the thicker cardboard. So what I've done is I've used the thin paper from my envelope to do some curly bits, and then I've used the stronger cardboard to make some really strong sculpture shapes there. So I was really just making this up as I went along to see what happened. I'm actually really pleased with it, so that was a nice surprise. So now I'm going to show you how you can use the techniques that you've just learnt to make a 3D picture. So you'll need a piece of A4 card. It doesn't have to be coloured, but I've chosen to go for some jazzy yellow. So what we're going to do is use the same techniques, but we're going to stick it to our card. So at this point we are going to use a Pritt stick rather than a stapler. So we're going to need be a little bit more patient because we do want the Pritt stick to dry. So I'm going to begin with a folded piece of card like we did earlier, springy one. And I'm just going to choose anywhere on my piece of card to start. I'm going to put some glue just on one end, like that. And then I'm going to stick it down to my piece of card. So you might want to leave it all floppy like this, but actually I want to make it into a little bit of an arch. So I'm going to put some glue on the other end. So then I stick that like that, and I'm starting to get my Sculpt 3D picture. So now I'm just going to experiment and see what I can come up with. So when you've finished your 3D picture, you can now stick this on the wall. It looks cool flat as well. Thank you so much for joining me to make your sculpture hats. Don't forget to share your creations on the studionAme social media. I can't wait to see your versions. It'd be really cool if you did a sculpture fashion show with your family. And I think you'll just come up with so many more cooler ideas than I did. So can't wait to see that. See you soon.